Alabama's heading to Norman, Oklahoma. Sound familiar? This time, though, it's for all the marbles as the Crimson Tide take on Oklahoma for a spot in the college football playoff quarterfinal, the Rose Bowl against Indiana. So, Colton, how are Sooners fans feeling as Alabama comes to town for the second time in about a year?
Yeah, Colin, I don't know what the vibe is like over there in Tuscaloosa, but I would say people in Norman are pretty confident. I mean, obviously having beat the Tide twice in a row, dating back to last November in Norman, and then just a couple of weeks ago in Tuscaloosa. And I think it boils down to the way they won, right? I mean, the defense, especially this last matchup on the road, just sort of overwhelmed Ty Simpson in that offense, and especially to get a big time win like that on the road. I think people are feeling confident here. However, I know, obviously Alabama outgained the Sooners by quite a bit in that game. So a lot of work cut out for them for sure. But I think just having beating this team and Kalen DeBoer twice already, I think this group has a lot of confidence. But bouncing off of that, Colin, I wanted to ask you, there's obviously been a lot made about Ty Simpson, especially coming off the SEC title game. He played pretty well, I would say, against OU the last time we saw him. The defense was, like I said, able to get to him and force some turnovers. But what have you sort of seen from him in the back half of the season, especially, and where do you think he needs to improve if Alabama wants to get a win here on the road?
Yeah, I see a quarterback who is struggling. I see one who's struggling to create any semblance of rhythm. If you watch any Alabama game from early in the year, whether it's, that road win in Athens, whether it was that 30-point performance against Tennessee, you saw an offense that wasn't exactly flashy, but it was consistent. They moved the ball downfield. They kept possession. They didn't allow their opponents to basically any possession at all. And that's what you really haven't seen. You see a quarterback who's underthrowing, who's overthrowing, who's not responding well to pressure. And you have a guy who's getting hit a lot too. And there's, he has to respond time and time again, questions about whether he's healthy or not, whether he, actually does feel healthy or not. I mean, he looks different. He acts different. He's a different quarterback than he was, no matter how many times he tells you otherwise. And he's not. I think this is a big part of it. He's not getting a lot of help up front, and he's not getting a lot of help in terms of guys making plays around him. Whether it's getting a run game going, whether it's getting guys in space in the horizontal passing game. There's no rhythm to this Alabama offense right now, and I think that has to do. I mean, a lot of that is on Ty, but a lot of that is also on kind of Ty not getting the time to do what he wants offensively. And I think for Sooners fans, it's probably music for their ears just because of what they've been able to do defensively, and especially with that pass rush that is seemingly getting more healthy as the day goes on.
Yeah, and to talk about the defense, we really got to start with the pass rush, right? I mean, this defensive line, whether it's young players like Jaden Jackson or David Stone, or veterans like Dominic Williams and Grayson Halton, it's just stacked, right, at each level. Even with our Mason Thomas missing the last couple of games, right? I mean, he exited the Tennessee game after that 70-yard fumble return, hasn't played since, and they really didn't miss a beat. Beat Alabama, beat Missouri, beat LSU. Now I was out at practice earlier today, and he looks like a player that's certainly preparing to play. So this defensive line is potentially going to add him back to it. So that's just going to make it even scarier. And I know they were able to get a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson last time out, but how does Alabama view not only that loss but the loss last year? I mean, last year it seemed like that sort of knocked him out of playoff contention. This year, at least on social media, just from what I've seen, they sort of felt like that was more self-inflicted than it was maybe OU.
That's 100. I mean, that's 100% it. I mean, I was there last year in Norman, and it was a game that was, basically, if you think that this offense has struggled, watch that 2024 game back, and you see an offense that was non-existent. This year, this loss was a little like, if you ask anybody within this program, it's one that shouldn't have happened. It's one that was self-inflicted. It was one where, it was a battle of field position. Isaiah Satania, very like a missed tackle away from it was a loss on a punt return rather than a 50 or a 40, 50-yard return instead, or picks that were caused by rushes, and or yeah, it was a turnover battle, right? It was the loss of it was Alabama not winning the turnover margin handed Alabama that loss. And everybody within that program, even the conversation today with Kalen DeBoer and with players, they're confident that they said that's not going to happen again. That's something that is fixable, that's tangible, and that can be improved upon. And when Alabama's at its best, especially offensively, it doesn't turn the ball over. And you saw that early in the year. This again, like this team that's consistent, that moves the ball downfield very, very efficiently, not explosively, but efficiently, and they don't give away possessions. And it's confident that if Ty Simpson holds onto the ball, if Ryan Williams on a punt return can hold onto a ball, if it's Ryan Williams out there, then Alabama's going to be just fine, no matter what it is. Because I mean, this was a defense that with other than a couple of plays, a defense that felt very, very good after the Oklahoma game. It was a run game where Kalen DeBoer keeps pointing back to this Oklahoma game as kind of the game where Alabama refound its run game, where it found the room at the line of scrimmage. So with all of that in mind, it was still a loss, and there are things to still be aware of and cognizant of. But this is a game where Alabama still sees it as incredibly winnable.
Yeah, definitely. I It seems like you were talking about just the offense, right? I mean, how many rushing yards did they have against Georgia? It's like -3 or something like that.
Yeah. No, there was nothing. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to say where it's almost like we promise there's improvement, right? Like it's like there is room to run. They just don't really
Yeah.
they haven't had the explosion up front. But I mean, Oklahoma's had its share of run troubles
Yeah.
too,
Oh,
right?
yeah, no, without a doubt. The offense as a whole really has struggled, uh, really probably since John Mateer's injury, I would say, after the Auburn game. I mean, running backs in and out health wise. Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson have both played the last couple of games, but they've been dealing with multiple ailments. The time off is probably going to be super huge from that standpoint for those guys, but. For Oklahoma offensively, I think it really comes down to similarly, like you were talking about with Ty Simpson. Can John Mateer take care of the football? What does this 3 weeks off do for him? He obviously had surgery on his hand and his thumb about 2 months ago, or a little over 2 months ago now, I guess. But where is he at health wise? Where is he at mentally? Can he take care of the football? So sort of the same story, I think, for both teams offensively. But Colin, do we want to do predictions at some point, probably? But I can't believe we went this long without talking about Kalen DeBoer and his job status.
Yeah. So it was a question that I mean, he seemed annoyed that he had to answer, but then again, he put it on himself. Which is, I mean, he this is the interesting thing where ahead of a game against an opponent that's very familiar, an opponent that is in the Kalen DeBoer era. I'm hesitant to say it, but I will. Like Oklahoma's almost been Alabama's kryptonite over the course of the DeBoer era, and whether that continues on on Friday, that is yet to be determined. I think a third loss would kind of cement that. But ahead of that, and with all focus on getting revenge from 2024, getting revenge from that loss in 2025, the audacity that a report comes out that Kalen DeBoer's job status is in question, or that he's wanted elsewhere, and that it's mind-boggling to me, and in a conversation that players on Friday had to answer for, right? Like, so it's been an interesting wrinkle over the course of the past few days that he said today that he doubled down and said, yeah, he's going to be the head coach of Alabama in 2026. And that's something that Sooners fans are, whether they're excited about that, whether they're nervous about that, I guess we're going to find out Friday. But it's been an interesting wrinkle. And honestly, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you should kind of be excited about the distraction that's going on at Alabama, the conversation that is not about this game. That as Kalen DeBoer heads into his first college football playoff game of his Alabama tenure, that there is distractions rampant, and it'll be and it's something that they could say, Alabama could say over and over, like, you know, everybody's locked in, everybody's keyed in, it's all Oklahoma. We're going to find out if that's really true on Friday, because I mean, they said the same. There were similar conversations with DeBoer and Penn State a couple weeks ago ahead of the SEC championship game, and it was all, we're getting ready for Georgia, and then they lay an egg against Georgia. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects Alabama, and maybe, as if we're talking about X factors, if we're talking about like what this game's going to be, I think that's a big one, right? How quickly does Alabama start, given everything, right? Can Ty Simpson lead them to a first drive touchdown? Can Alabama's defense get a stop, force a turnover, something that can kind of sway momentum into this is Alabama's, and their focus has always been on Oklahoma. I think that's, if you're an Alabama fan, that's what you want over the neck, or the first few minutes against Oklahoma on Friday night. What do you think the Sooners need to do to kind of cement its momentum against Alabama?
I think, like I said, it comes down to the offense, really. I really think so. I think if John Mateer can not turn the ball over, similarly to what we were talking about the last meeting, right? Can the defense force Ty Simpson and Alabama into mistakes, and can Oklahoma avoid those same mistakes offensively? I think for both teams, just listening to you talk and sort of watching Alabama over the last couple of weeks, I think for both teams, the keys are pretty similar, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
got a talented defense over there in Tuscaloosa as well. I mean, that's going to be they're going to be a handful for this Oklahoma offense. So um, I've been going back and forth, Colin. I don't know about you.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know where I stand. Whether it's like it's hard to beat a team, twice or even three times in a row. But on the other hand, like, does Brent Venables maybe have Kalen DeBoer's number? I don't know where I stand, right? So I think just because it's at home, I'm going to go with Oklahoma edging out Alabama just barely. But I would not be surprised if it's the other way around.
yeah. I think we're on the same page. I'm not. We'll get a specific score into print at some point soon, but I think I literally, before we started this, I just rewatched Alabama's loss to Oklahoma earlier this year, and what I saw was a team that had its moments, a team that shined, but a team that crumbled under the pressure of maybe five plays, maybe six. Um, it's all fixable. And I think that's, if you're Alabama, that's what you hang your hat on, and that's what you leave the Tuscaloosa airport to Norman, wherever they're going to fly to. That's where you leave confident, is that this is winnable. Now, what team shows up? I don't know. If it's the team that shows up in Atlanta, the one that kind of crumbled, if it's the Ty Simpson that can't generate any momentum, then this could be a pretty solid win for Oklahoma. Now, if it's a team that's healthy, if it's a team that if that comes back, and Ty Simpson can create that rhythm, if Alabama can put pressure on John Mateer and force him to contain him in a pocket, then I think Alabama wins this one. And I think it could be close, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a decisive one. Whether it's Oklahoma, whether it's Alabama, I think it's going to be pretty decisive who takes this one.
Interesting. Well, Colin, thanks for hopping on. Looking forward to the game on Friday, and we'll see you in Norman.
Yeah, see you guys in Norman.